Hello everybody, it's Ioana Savova from CloudSigma speaking. I'm doing sales and marketing for CloudSigma, and today I'm here to give you a welcome, to thank you for joining us for this webinar called New Dynamic Security Configurations. I would like now to give the floor to Zohar Alon, one of the co-founders and CEO of Dome9, who would show you how you can secure your first CloudSigma server. Zohar, please.
Hi, Anna. Thank you very much for having me. Today we're going to talk about how we can use Dome9 to create dynamic security policies and configurations for CloudSigma. And as Joanna suggested, we'll be better off by starting and showing you how we can first use Dome9 to secure our first CloudSigma server, and then jump into the dynamics. And we'll take it from there. Sorry. So what Dome9 helps you do on your CloudSigma infrastructure is to basically use the Dome9 service to manage security policies, firewall, and other policies on your CloudSigma infrastructure. Essentially, a small agent that runs on top of the operating system of your CloudSigma Windows or Linux servers, constantly maintains connection with the Dome9 service, through which you can constantly access, manage, and automate the security policies on those cloud servers, where you create dynamic, elastic environment to support your applications. Another thing that this would let you do is to stop attacks on people targeting your open administrative ports, your SSH, your VNC, your remote desktop, and maybe other SQL ports that you may have left open, by allowing you to automate access to it on a need-to-know basis for your security team and your development team. So let's start by installing and protecting the first CloudSigma server. So I've created a couple of minutes ago a CloudSigma server running CentOS, and the first thing I did is I SSH into it, just to show you how simple it is to install Dome9. What we're doing is we create a Dome9 account on dome9.com, and we essentially install our first Linux agent. We give it the default security group, we give it the name, CloudSigma 1, and we copy this one line of script back to the SSH shell, and we will paste it. Essentially what this does is logs in, downloads the most updated, the most recent Dome9 agent, and as you'll see here in a second, it's updated. We use CentOS, Red Hat Linux repository, or Debian Ubuntu apt repositories, so they're constantly updated with the recent version of the Linux agent. We also have the same for the Windows environment. As you can see here, you can also install Dome9 on other variants of Linux through our manual tar-gz installation. It will finish in less than a couple of seconds. And now the pairing starts. Everything here is automated, as you just saw. I just pasted one line and see what happens in our Dome9 user interface. Boom. This new server was just created live. This is its IP. The server has a valid policy, and now we can try and access the server. And here we have it on our Dome9 account, the default policy for any server, basically saying SSH and remote desktop are closed and only open on demand. And the default policy also enables port 80 and 443 through the cloud server firewall. If I'll go back to that CentOS server, exactly what I expected to happen happened. Now that we have installed Dome9 on that agent, you see SSH is closed. So I was automatically knocked out of my server. So what I need to do now, anytime I want to connect, I basically need to log into my Dome9 account, select the proper server, and click the Get Access button. Now this creates an automatic 1-hour active access lease for the IP address that I currently have to the specific CloudSigma 1 server. So it's a one-to-one relationship on top of the bad internet. I go back to my SSH session and I restart the session, and boom, I can now try and access my server. If I terminate this, as you can see, in less than a second, we remote update the policy on that service, on that server, and nothing can get in. So now that we have built the first layer of automation, the first layer, sorry, of protection on our CloudSigma server, we can dive into building more complex and more dynamic policies. So what is dynamic security policy configuration? In essence, what we try to help you is we try to help you build an elastic environment where instead of manually configuring IP addresses and ports, and every time something changes in the topology, you have to update all the other members of that topology. What we are presenting to you is what we call object-oriented security management, in which we will let you have the tools to build groups of IPs, dynamic groups of servers, maybe dynamic group of subnets that may need some kind of access between one server and another, and try to be as object-oriented as possible versus to be configuration-centric. And all that without requiring you to write any complex rules for each and every server. So let's say we have a group that serves an application, we can use and we can apply massive changes to a specific or to the security policy of those many servers with just one policy change. In order to do that, let's show what are security groups. Essentially, we've now created a basic security configuration for this CloudSigma server. By clicking the Manage tab, I have insight and access into this server world. And what I see here is that this server is a member of the Dome9 default security group. And so let's dive by creating a specific new security group. Let's call it Linux App 1 or Linux default. This Linux default will have SSH on demand, and it will also have a custom port. Let's say we have a monitoring service. Monitoring port, let's say it's UDP 161. So we define it as UDP 161. Now, instead of doing it for on-demand, we want to allow connections for known networks and IPs to every member of the Linux default group to be able to monitor, for example, if we have a SNMP communication that needs to be whitelisted somewhere else. So let's, for example, write a static IP over here, 200.100.0.1, and we add this. Essentially what this has created, this every server that will inherit the Linux default policy will trust this 200.100 IP address for, in this case, SNMP on UDP 161. We click Save. So now we have a basic security group with 2 rules. It currently has no members, so no servers are yet enjoying this configuration. Now we go back to our CloudSigma 1 server and attach this new Linux default security group to it. And let's remove the old one, detach the default one. As you can see, the policy on this Red Hat 5.7 release server has automatically been updated to basically allow SSH on demand and monitoring from this specific group. Now, if we have more servers here, instead of going and configuring this security group or adding this configuration to every server, we just, with a click of a button, attach this new security group to all those servers, and this configuration automatically propagates. Now, when we go back to the Access tab, we can see the policy has changed for this CloudSigma 1 server, and you see here there's a gray icon versus the black icon. This demonstrates that there is some IPs are whitelisted to access this specific 161 UDP service. Another member of the dynamic, or in order to achieve dynamic in security groups, another thing we have introduced recently is the IP lists. IP lists are basically a group of known IPs. This can be my known dev team office IPs. And let's add another one just for the sake of the demonstration. So now I have a group of IPs called my known dev team office IPs. It's an object. It has three different members. Now, when we save this object, what we have created is we've created the ability to use this object in other security policies that are available throughout our configuration. So, for example, let's add a new security group, and we'll call it Web Application 1. And this Web Application 1 has another very simple policy. It allows web access to all IPs, and it allows MySQL on demand, and also to I want to allow the people in my development team access to this specific port on this specific machine. So what I do, I select this, I'm building the service that I want to enable them access to, and I click the IP list, and I see that I have them as an object available to be whitelisted for this service. So essentially, when we add this group to this rule and hit save, every server that will inherit this Web Application 1 security group will also get these 2 IP, and let's try and do it on the server that we've just created. So it's currently only a member of the Linux default group. I'll also add in the Web Application 1, and I will attach this policy to him. You see now its inherited policy includes 4 different services, 2 from each security policy. And if we'll go to the Access tab, we can see this change has taken effect. And now what we will do is just to show you how it all translates in the real world. We'll try to SSH into our CloudSigma server. So we need to get in, get access. In less than a second, it's updated. Now I can restart the session. Let me get my CloudSigma password. Now if I'll print the allowed services on this, sorry, I'll print the domain policy that this service just accepted. As you can see, it is allowed SSH from, let's do a -v. So it allows SSH for my current IP address, the one that I'm actually using this SSH window to access to. It is allowing port 80 from everywhere. And you remember those 3 IP addresses that I added to our development team and I whitelisted it for MySQL service? It's all here. Plus, we have the IP address, the static IP address that we've allowed for 161. This, when I get back to this, to my domain configuration, so what you've seen is that we now have the ability, for example, to go to the IP list, and let's say I've added another machine to, or another location to our trusted locations, or let's say only the 100.100 address is not allowed anymore. I delete it, I click save, and before I know it, I go back to my domain protected server, and you see here it was, and now it isn't. So instead of imagine yourself trying to do the same action for 10 server environment, just setting up the trust between the servers and trust between the servers and our known monitoring subnet or our known, and of course everything can be also private IPs, public IPs. This is not really the issue. The main issue is how easy it is for me to manage a simple object. I can even do it, I can paste a long link list here from Microsoft Excel, and I can use this policy, and it even tells me which security groups are using this object. Okay, so now that we have set up, we know how we can secure access our CloudSigma server, and we can even use IP lists to create dynamic and elastic objects. I'll show you an even more interesting or important capability. This is the ability to use DNS objects and predefined lists that we call magic IPs. In the example that you just saw here, we have had to define those IP addresses by hand. We own them, we put them in as a user. I use the IP addresses that I know, and I configure the domain central to deploy it as part of the service. What we can also do is we can essentially use dynamic IP lists, and this is available through our what we call magic IPs and magic DNS. So let's call this web security, or let's call it Cloudflare. Cloudflare is another security service that allows you to reverse proxy your port 80 traffic or 443 behind it. So what we do is we're going to define port 80, but instead of opening port 80 to all IPs as most of the world websites allow, or web servers allow, we're actually going to offer an on-demand or partial scope open. We're going to allow port 80 traffic from an IP list we call Cloudflare. We're going to click Add. As you see, it gave me the nice note saying it's a magic IP. And what Cloudflare is a list of known Cloudflare proxy servers that by making sure you use the Cloudflare service, only web traffic that went through the Cloudflare cloud will be allowed to access your service, your server. And as Cloudflare offer web application firewall and some reverse proxying and CDN, this is probably the best way to combine securing the web application and also securing the server that hosts this web app by only trusting the list of IPs that Cloudflare provides. Now, you as a user, you don't have to do that. Dome9 does it for you. So essentially, when I click Save, and now go back to our CloudSigma 1 server, and instead of having the web application, let's detach this group and add the Cloudflare group into Dome9, into that server. Looking at the configuration, again, as you can see here, we have port 80 as open on the old configuration. In the new configuration, you see here that port 80 is not open to the internet, is only open to a list of known subnets that Cloudflare is constantly updating as they add more infrastructure. So what this pretty much makes sure is that, as you see here, you have no externally exposed service on your cloud server. You trust only this specific IP for the monitoring, and you trust a very limited set of 7 subnets for your web traffic, and you trust only one IP address, the one that we are currently using for SSH. If you compare this to your current security policies, I will guarantee you that your current security policies allows SSH from everywhere and web from everywhere, and probably some many other bad things that you don't even realize from everywhere. And instead of managing this complex policy, see how easy it is. SSH on demand, web from known IPs, Cloudflare, and monitoring from known IPs. So essentially we used, and when Cloudflare updates their list of IPs, you have nothing to worry about because they constantly update Dome9 to our API as they grow and add more subnets. And the minute they will add one, it will be automatically added to all our customers that are using the Cloudflare Magic IP object. Okay, assuming that power of that is realized, let's do the last piece of magic, and let's say we have our home router, and we want to trust everything coming from our home network to one of our cloud servers, and we want, so let's say trust the home with the DNS. We get a blank policy, and well, let's say we want to whitelist everything coming from our home router to every member of this group. It's a very powerful thing to do, but let's do it. Let's do it anyway. Let's use one of the IPs that we know of. Something very nice. Let's assume our office is being resolved by the address google.com. Oh no, let's take something dns.com. And we click Add. And what we've created is we've created a whitelist. So essentially, everything coming from this DNS resolved name will be allowed to any server that is part of this group. Let me change the name for it just for a second. Okay, so what this gives us is the ability to define my home router DNS.com and edit here. I can even add a comment of what does this refers to. When I click save, now let's go back to our cloud server and add this new trust home security group to this server. So we see now we have 3 security policies. Let's remove the Cloudflare one. Going back to our SSH session. For example, you see that now those 2 IP addresses were added to our security policy, and they were added to everything, to any service, essentially a trust all for those 2 IPs. You can probably understand now that these 2 IPs is the result of those 2 domain names. One of them is dns.com and the other one is myhomeroute.dns.com. So essentially, every time one of these names, the names pointing to this, or the IPs, sorry, that is pointed to by these names will change, your policy automatically and without doing anything will change as well. This is a very powerful feature because you're using DNS object as a source, as an allowed source in a security policy for a cloud server. So it's very powerful, but again, it's also very dangerous because anyone that can trick DNS to whitelist his IP address, his configuration, or his IP will get whitelisted within your servers. So use it or handle it with care. We went past the live demonstration, of course. By the way, if you have any questions, you can ask the commentator, ask the moderator in the application, and those questions will get to me, and I'll try to answer them at the end of the session. Essentially, what we let you do is to manage any number of cloud servers under this user interface, and also basically allow you have you the ability to connect multiple administrators under the same configuration. Just to show you how it looks like, if we go to user and permissions, we essentially can add new users. User 1, email. This user will now get an invitation, and now we can say, what does this user allow to do? Is he allowed to manage the entire environment, all the servers, or just this CloudSigma one server? And just for the sake of it, we can even let him have only access permissions to a single server just for SSH add. So essentially, we create users in Dome9. When they log in, all they see, let's update the permissions. When they log in, they will only see one button for SSH for the servers that they are allowed. You can use us to redistribute authorization in any level to those to your infrastructure, to developers, to database experts, to IT personnel, etc. And you can even send what we call invitations. And an invitation is the ability to send somebody without a login, to send him a one-time link that he can click and whitelist himself for a specific service, let's say for 1 hour. And he gets an automatic email message from Dome9. We currently serve more than 2,000 active users from all over the place, all over the world, managing thousands and thousands of servers on any environment. We have some very happy CloudSigma customers that are running us to protect their remote desktop access on Windows and complex policies on Linux, etc. Again, we also support the ability to manage security policies on various clouds and different providers, and also on your dedicated infrastructure if you have. We can even run on dedicated servers and private IP servers. We've set up a special offer just for CloudSigma customers when they sign up for Dome9. I think you will get this link and details also personalized. But essentially, every CloudSigma customers that will sign up by the end of the year will get an additional 20% off to the other perks that we provide. As you can see at the bottom, sign up is very easy. It's a very effortless and very easy process. You were able to see how easy it is to configure your first server, so I'm guessing this will not be an issue. And with that, if you have any questions, let's move to your questions. Dave, do we have the questions?
Yeah, we have one question around what kind of reporting is available within the system auditing and logging.
Okay, perfect. So one of the main things we were always skipping between the access and the manage, we kind of skip this this pool dashboard. If we click on it, what you will be able to see, and actually this is the new version of the dashboard, Dave, you haven't seen it, so you'll be surprised. What you see here is a complete activity monitoring of our entire behavior throughout the course of the account. I can see with some very deep insights exactly what happened. As you can see from the last event. The last event was we created a user and we changed its permission. Everything is audited with explicit data of exactly what the user, in this case myself, what exactly the user did, and a security group was updated, what it was updated from, to essentially, and the ability to export it to your compliance officer or to get kind of a security audit or forensic. But basically, you see when this event happened, which was the IP address that the Dome9 service was accessed from, who is the user within the account that did something, and what exactly was done. With your permission, I'll log on to one of our demo accounts that has a more extensive some more extensive policies to it and some more full dashboard. So essentially what we can do here is we can filter based on username. So let's see what Dave has been doing on this machine, and I'll click the filter, and in a multi-user environment, it will take it a couple of seconds, but in the multi-user environment you'll be able to see exactly the entire action this user have completed. You can query based on event types. I want to see addition. I want to see password forget notification. I want to see invitation used. And here is, Dave, with your permission, the entire actions when firmware, what exactly did he do. So if we know that we had an issue around October 10th, we can go back and ask him, okay, you acquired a service list. We see all the policy changes, all the edits that happened to the policy during that time. Another very key complement to that is we offer you the ability to use multi-factor authentication by our cooperation with the MyDigiPass, a free service that we offer to our paid users. The ability to use strong two-factor authentication when logging into Dome9. And with regards to the auditing, or to complement the auditing and reporting, you also get a complete email thread of exactly what happens in the account. So every time a server changes its state from live to inaccessible, every time we discover a tamper protection where the configuration on this machine is not exactly as it is expected, every time permissions are changed, policies are changed, or users have a failed logon, you get an email notifying you in real time, so you can basically use the notification to have an absolute control about who is accessing the system from your users, your developers, etc. And again, everything is tracked in the dashboard.
Great, Zohar. We have another question here around getting access to the server. Question was, do I have to log into Dome9 when I want to get access to my server, or are there other methods, or how do I do that? Can I do it via API?
Sure. One of the things that when we went on the settings, you can see that every account has a unique Dome9 API key. So Dome9 lets its users log in 4 different ways. You can either give your users or yourselves access through the main secure.dome9.com web service. But what also you can use the API key, and for example, we have a Chrome extension. This Chrome extension that you can see right here, essentially you put your email and your API key one time, you set up your default lease time, in this case to 1 hour, and when you click select services, you see the entire list of services available on your Dome9 account on the special. This is our administration portal, so I can remote desktop into it. I can use it on a specific port. This is actually one of our production accounts. So you can actually see, for example, I have a Sugar CRM here. I click the SSH and I save and close. Every time I click now on the top right of your screen, when I click this little D9 button, and it waits a bit, and it goes to on, essentially now the IP address of this browser, of this machine, is whitelisted for 1 hour on all the services that I pre-selected here. So I don't even have to go and pick them every time. I have it on my configuration. It's like a VPN in the cloud for on-demand access without installing anything, and I configure it one time. We also have an iPhone application, and an Android one is soon to come, so you can use your API key on the Dome9 for iPhone, and essentially use the ability to have one click on your iPhone app. So you click that button, and the IP address that you're coming from is automatically deployed. Is automatically whitelisted, sorry. Okay, so with that, I'd like to thank you for joining us for here today for Dome9 and CloudSigma, showing you how you can protect your cloud servers and offer the next step in security management with dynamic security policies. I want to remind you about the 20% off for a first-year offer if you sign up by the end of December. And I really want to urge you and try out. We have, of course, a 30-day free trial, and you can see for yourself. You can experience it on your Linux servers, on your Windows servers. You can even install it on your desktop or a virtual box within your desktop to see how everything works seamlessly.